Hey, you are listening to Oh Crap Parenting with me, your host, Jamie Glowacki. This is a podcast for conscious parents who drop the F-bomb a lot.
Hey, you guys. Welcome. I hope you had a great Christmas if you celebrate, or great holiday season. We are rounding out December now. I can't even believe how fast this year went. So today I wanted to just do a lighthearted, fun, some holiday stories, some holiday warnings. I know we're past the actual holiday, but I know a lot of your kids are getting bigger. So I want to preface this by saying if you're listening in the car or in the presence of your children, there will be some inappropriate material. So I highly suggest you turn this off now and resume when you can listen in private. And if you've been with me for a long time, you've probably heard these stories, but I just got my Spotify stats. And between this podcast and OCRAP Potty Training podcast, I have had 150% growth in this podcast, which is amazing. But that means there's a lot of new people who probably haven't heard these stories and aren't going back to listen to all the podcasts that we've recorded. So I also just wanted to keep it light because this is being released December 26th, and this is the week of like craziness, right? When I saw a meme one time that said, I'm full of cheese and confused as to what day it is. So I'm sure there's still some festivities happening if you're traveling or with family. So I just wanted to keep this pretty light. So number one, again, I realize this is after the holiday, but this is something to maybe keep in mind for the future. I think your kids are getting older, so we should probably bring up the big man himself who comes to visit on the 25th, because let me tell you something, these kids are smart today. I mean, I learned the truth about Santa when my mom had to tell me in fourth grade. I was in fourth grade and she was afraid people would start making fun of me. So she had to like break it to me. And I think I still wrote letters to Santa for another 3 years because I was like, I hedge my bets just in case. And to this day, people laugh at me because I'm like, Santa's real. I love Santa because of course Santa represents the Christmas spirit. So one thing you might notice is your kids start asking about it sooner than I would have ever imagined, like in my day. There was always one kid who found the present somewhere and kind of spread the news, but it was pretty, I don't know, we didn't question it, but we also weren't as smart. I think we didn't have computers. I mean, when Pascal started to question it, him and his buddy got together and they were like calculating the mileage. And he was like, I don't know, like how much magic can reindeer have? Like, that's a lot of miles. That's a lot of houses. They were like calculating the population of the world and how many kids. And I was like, just shut up and get the presents. So kids are smart. And if your child has access to a computer, be it at school, for schoolwork, an iPad, and they have the ability to read and type, they are Googling this. I was shocked when Pascal told me, even when he was younger, but I wanted to share the story of how it happened for us, because it also, it comes up around the holidays, of course, which, by the way, can we talk about like 90% of the movies out there, like, instilled the seeds of doubt in Santa. So I always am like, what the hell? And by the way, if you don't do Santa and, you think it's lying to your kids and you won't do that, that's cool. I get you. I think, if you do that, I don't think it's cool to burden your child with keeping the myth alive for other kids. I think it's okay to express different beliefs, just like we have different beliefs in God. Some people believe in Jesus, some people don't. Some people believe other faiths, Muslims and Muhammad. There's so many different beliefs and value systems that it's okay to agree to disagree on some beliefs. And so I think that's a better approach. I always kind of feel bad for the parents who think that they have to burden their kids with the responsibility of not telling other kids. I don't think they need to go broadcasting it, but I think it can be an honest conversation of, I believe what I believe and you believe what you believe. That being said, I have heard from parents who are devastated that their parents lied to them. And if that happened to you, I'm sorry. I also do believe though that we lie to our kids all the time. I mean, I would say McDonald's is closed. That toy doesn't take batteries. So yeah, whatever you do is appropriate, but this is about people who do Santa with their kids and do continue the myth. So I loved the myth. I think it's magical. I continued it with my child. I think it is really about the Christmas spirit. So when Pascal believed in Santa, and I swore to myself the day he like looked me in the eye and asked me for the truth, not the hinting around, because I think the hinting around is when they aren't quite ready to stop believing. So the day though they look at you and ask for the truth, I personally said, okay, that's the day I'll tell him. And I think he was 7, and we were in the car, and it was July. So like, who's expecting any sort of Santa question in July? And he's in the backseat, and, he said, Mom, I have to ask you a question. Yeah, sure. Ask what? He's like, is Santa real? Are you Santa? Tell me the truth. And I was like, I'm in the car. I didn't have time to even text like my therapist or my friends, or like I was on the spot on the highway. So I looked in the rearview mirror and I said, well, that's a pretty big truth that you're asking for. And he was like, no, I want the truth. I want the truth. I said, all right. Yeah. Santa is not real. It has been me. And as I'm looking in the rearview mirror, I can tell that he wasn't actually ready for the truth. Like his face crumbled. And I was like, oh shit. But he's looking out the window and he's like, okay, well, what about the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny? And I was like, yeah, those are me too. And he's like, so you took my teeth? And I was like, yeah, I have your teeth. And he was like, oh, and then the tears start. He's looking out the window and he starts crying. And pretty soon he's hysterical. I have to pull over. I am hugging him. And he is just like, what did he say to me? I can't believe this. The magic of my childhood is like, he was saying this like advanced stuff. You've wrecked the magic of my childhood. I can't remember exactly what he said now, but it was like the magic of living is gone. It was very dramatic, as is Pascal. So I was just like, fuck. So we get home. Luckily, we weren't too far from home. We get home and he's still kind of inconsolable and I don't know what to do. So I put the genie back in the bottle. I just kind of slapped his arm and I was like, oh, dude, I was pranking you. I'm sorry. Literally, when I tell you, the veil came down so fast, he stops crying and he was like, that is a terrible thing to do to a child. And I was like, no, I know. And he's like, what about my teeth? And we have a historic thing going on. When it comes to pulling teeth, I can't do it. A wiggly tooth will make me faint. And if you get into an accident, I can hold your head together, like crack your head open. I can hold it together with blood everywhere. I have helped people with compound fractures. I literally did help a person who cracked their head open, held their head together to get to the hospital. Does not gross me out. I am the person you want in a bloody emergency. If you show me a loose tooth, I will faint. So I always told him the Tooth Fairy doubled down if he pulled it himself. She'd give him double. So I referred to that. I was like, Pascal, I faint even like looking at a loose tooth. Like, why would I save your teeth? That's crazy. And he was like, okay, like literally I put the genie back in the bottle and he was so clearly not ready to hear it that he was fine. He was fine. Just amazing. So I was like, well, damn, now what do I do? And I was just like, this is when I started to save for his therapy and not for college. Because I was like, oh shit, I have no idea. I just dug my hole way deeper, but I didn't know what to do. And so it worked in the moment. And then I read this really awesome thing in the next couple of years, which was, it's time to tell your children. And like I said, a lot of times these kids already know or deeply suspect, and they don't want to ruin it. They're afraid that if they tell you, they're not going to get presents. They're also afraid. It's a big shift in their belief system, and so they just they're not quite ready to hear the truth. And I think that's where Pascal was before I stepped in it. And then, but I heard this really wonderful thing that the child is ready to hear it from your mouth when they start thinking about themselves. And I always think this is somewhere around 9. Of course, it's going to be different for every kid, but Waldorf also has I forget their exact philosophy, but it has something to do with like losing all your first teeth. It's a shift in consciousness when you're not so self-centered and you look at the world as like, oh, there are children who are hungry or homeless. You look at things differently and it's a little more not introspective and not self-centered. It's a little more focused on the world has ramifications. And this is a big shift and why 9 is kind of an important age, because it really, the veil of life is lifted off and kids start to see sort of a harsher reality that exists in the world. So it is a really big shift. And so at some point, the child becomes way more invested in giving than receiving. And it was around 9 that Pascal had these 3 best friends, and he was obsessed with getting them Christmas presents and buying it with his own money and going to stores and choosing so carefully. And then we had to play, he wanted to play Santa. He wanted to deliver them by surprise, wrap them up, leave them by their door. He didn't even want to see them when they it was a whole elaborate thing that he was crafting. He didn't want to sit there and see them open it. He just wanted them to be surprised. And it was so interesting. And I said, oh, this is it. And so I said, wow, you're really getting into the Christmas spirit. And he said, yeah. And we can buy Meme and Pepe. And he was just all about the giving and so less about the receiving and what he wanted. So I approached him and I said, yeah, the Christmas spirit's awesome. Like that feeling of you want to give and give and give. And it's so fun around the holidays to see people and to be that magical kind of elf dropping things off at people's doorsteps. And he was like, yeah. And I said, so this is like probably a really good time to bring up like the true Christmas spirit and the true meaning of Santa. And he was like, oh yeah. He said, I know he's not real. And I said, oh, you do? And he said, yeah, well, there's that time you told me and I didn't want to hear it. So I forget what he said, something like I hid it in my mind or something like that. And he said, and then I Googled it. And I was like, okay. I said, well, how do you feel about that? And he kind of got a little weepy and I got a little weepy. And he said, I'm just going to miss him. And I said, yeah, but here's the thing. We don't have to miss him. Like, I just believe so strongly in the Christmas spirit and what it represents. And even if you're not into Christmas itself, solstice or the holiday season, the December, the longer nights, the coziness, for me, the snow and the cold weather. And it just represents a whole season to me that's so wonderful and joyous. And I think it brings out our best selves if we're not overscheduled moms. But and he said, yeah, and it's one of the reasons I love the movie Elf or Christmas Chronicles, like when they talk about the Christmas spirit waning and people getting grumpy and mean. And so he accepted that. Like we got weepy and I said, you don't have to miss it. You still get the same, you're getting presents and you're getting all the benefits. And it's now a story. It's a character that we keep alive. And so he took it well. So I don't know if that helps you, but I think it's a really good I think it's a good gauge of when your child's ready to hear it from you is that it is, when their spirit is about giving and not receiving. The next thing I want to share is be cautious of the traditions you create. Now, if you have toddlers or older kids, you may have already started like Elf on the Shelf or other sort of Christmas traditions like that. And I say this because you're going to die laughing. Okay. So, and again, if you've been with me a long time, you've heard this story probably numerous times, but it always cracks me up because, I refuse to do Elf on the Shelf. I saw it. And I think the Elf on the Shelf has been around for a really long time, but it picked up in popularity again for, right around when Pascal was little, and social media had just picked up as well. So now we were seeing the elaborate pranks that the elf was doing around the house. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. It's 5:00 at night. It's so dark. It's like pitch dark, recording at night. And I'm like, oh, cool. The chickens will be quiet. Maverick will be quiet. We have shitty weather coming. And now I can hear my rooster cock-a-doodling in like the coop, which is like, it's nighttime. Be quiet. So I'm sure you guys can't hear him, but I'm like, what are you doing? Okay. So anyway, the Elf on the Shelf had picked up steam and the antics that he does around the house. And it was one of those things that I looked at and I was like, are you freaking crazy? Like, and it was not as rampant as what you guys are seeing on like Instagram or social media or whatever, or friends, but it was crazy to me that a mom would make more work for herself, or a dad make more work for yourself at night when the kids are in bed. I was just like flabbergasted. I was like, God, there is no way I'm doing this. And meanwhile, Pascal had gotten this advent calendar. It was a train, and we're not Catholic, so we don't typically do Advent the way it's supposed to do. It was more like a little gift every day. And this train had little tiny cupboards, and you could fit, maybe a Hershey's Kiss. Like it was about that big. And so we started with this advent calendar. Of course, I would say the elves came and filled the advent calendar. And so at first year, it was like a penny or a dime or a quarter, something like that, maybe $1 every couple of, every 5 days or something, Hershey Kiss. It was like real small. And then like, as he got a little bit older, the things I wanted to put in there didn't fit in the box. So I would do a scavenger hunt, and I would write with my left hand. So it looked like an elf, a young elf had written it. And then I started rhyming the scavenger hunt. So I'd leave the prize, and there'd be multiple steps, and each step had another, hint. They weren't terribly elaborate. There were like 5 steps, but it was elaborate. So, and then he loved those were his favorite parts. So then like every year, pretty soon it was like, the Advent starts on December 1st, right? So it's 25 days of rhyming, left-handed writing from an elf, scavenger hunts. This is the hole I dug myself. I didn't want to do the elf on the shelf, because who wants to make more work for themselves? And instead, I dug my hole so deep that I'm writing rhyming scavenger hunts every night of December. So I'm cautioning you to like bring it back wherever you're at. And if you have littles, don't do the elf on the shelf. Don't do the advent calendar. Don't do anything. Don't make it harder on yourself. And so I just we love our kids so much, and we see that joy on their face, and we're like, oh, I can do even more to make you happy. But then we just end up making it horrible for ourselves. So don't do that. Okay. So those are my 2 big stories. I hope they're helpful. I did want to mention too, I just did an Instagram post about this, but one of the challenges in the Oh Crap Cafe, which is our parenting online community, people are like, what can I do with my kids inside? It's winter, and what can I do with them outside? And there are so many things you can do outside, guys, and don't be afraid of the dark. So I have to walk Maverick extensively. And so a lot of times I'm in the dark, and it's fun. You can go to a nature trail. You can get high powered batteries, like the ones with the really bulky ones, or camping string lights that connect through your car. You can create like a festive atmosphere when you go sledding, but just even a family walk after dinner. Criminy, at this point, I know after solstice, where our days are getting slightly longer, but by like a minute. So I just wanted to mention that, don't be afraid. Grab a headlamp, grab some glow sticks, and bundle up. Of course, it's going to vary. Your mileage may vary, given where you live. Obviously if you're in Minnesota, you're not going to do this. And I think I might have mentioned this on a podcast already, but I just want to reiterate, get their wiggles outside. And it's early. I don't think, unless you live in a really unsafe area, I used to live in cities, and even early, the darkness isn't unsafe. I think we get this weird thing of the hooligans are going to be at the playground or the park. And I don't think it's unsafe, especially if you're with friends and family. So don't be afraid of the dark. And that's all I got for you. I hope you have a happy new year. I hope that you are setting some intentions for the new year. And I hope those intentions include slowing down, because that's my new rally cry, and taking care of yourself. And yeah. All right, you guys, as always, I appreciate you listening, and rock on and have a beautiful day.
Okay, bye everyone. Just a reminder, if you need additional resources, I have Oh Crap Potty Training. I have Oh Crap, I Have a Toddler. Those books are available everywhere you want to find a book. You can also go to my website, jamieglowacki.com, where you can book private sessions with me, buy any of my courses. Those are really geared towards potty training help. And also I'm on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook anymore, and I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, jamie.glowacki, and I do a lot of lives and usually posting a lot of good information. So those are extra resources for you. And as always, rock on. Have an awesome day.